bears?
All bears. That's our cue.
That's your cue. Every time I saw David and Marv, I said, I wish I had a magic wand that I could make things better. So she wanted to bring the wand. Nice. Paul. I'll let you go first. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim va'aretz. Al yitain lamod raglecha al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisroel. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yeminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam. Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam.
It's the custom in a Jewish tradition to begin a memorial service with the recitation of a psalm. Today we have chosen Psalm 121, Shir Lama'alot, a song for those who ascend. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. You see, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming, now and forever. Thank you, everyone, for being here. To all of you who are here with us at the cemetery, and to all of you who are tuned into our broadcast online from wherever you may be, thank you for coming together today to honor and to say goodbye to David Petrie, the son of George and Ida of blessed memory. David passed away Saturday at the age of 84. He is lovingly missed and remembered by his wife Barbara, son and daughter-in-law Jason and Allie, daughter-in-law Anna, grandchildren Sydney, Asher, and Charlotte, brother and sister-in-law George and Donna, Gordy and Donna. David was predeceased by his parents, by his brothers and sisters, Helen, Edward, Gerald, and Carol, and by his son, David. The truth is, much of David's life was a struggle, even from the beginning, one obstacle after another standing in his way, amazingly none of which would or could keep him down. But he was always working while living at surviving. The last 2 years, however, have been especially challenging and painful. Ultimately, this weekend, this past Saturday, his time came. And after a battle like that, I'm reminded of a piece of Jewish wisdom. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than a constant sickness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good reputation endures forever. And so we are here today to honor that good reputation, the good name of David Petrie that he built throughout his life through kindness, generosity, humor, and fun, and for which his memory will endure as a blessing. And we are here today to join our hearts together with those who are in mourning, his loved ones, to bring them strength and courage during their time of grief. I remember the first time I met David. I found out later he went to an event that was held at a local synagogue, specifically to meet me, which I found very weird because I'm not really worth meeting. But he knew me as a radio host back in a former life of mine when I worked for TSN, a sports radio station here in Winnipeg, and I found out that he was an avid listener, a regular listener, and a fan. So it made sense. At this particular event, it was refreshing to meet him and to talk sports for a little while we sat. All I remembered, all these years later, was his smile, and that it was a great conversation full of humor and what we call kibitzing. Sports is where the story of David Petrie begins, because it was a passion throughout his life, something he discovered when he was young, as a kid. He played everything, football, hockey, soccer, baseball, and paid for his equipment by delivering newspapers on his bike. Sports was a ticket out of a difficult childhood, out of poverty, a place where he was accepted, a place where he could make his own name, a place where he could have fun. He excelled at sports and would have continued playing for years had it not been that at 15 years old, in 1953, while a polio pandemic was ripping through our community and across the world, he suffered polio and spent almost a year in hospital. David would never play sports again, maybe a little golf later on, but nothing to the level with which he did before he was 15. The disease changed him, something he carried with him for the rest of his life. But only another example of something he overcame, triumphantly, through steadfast dedication, tireless work, and with a genuine humility through it all. It was a good thing that he was an exceptionally bright student and had skipped 2 grades in elementary school, so he didn't mind giving back a year when it came to academics. After high school at Daniel Mack, he chose the CA program, where he could work during the day at a firm and study at night, taking classes. Just as he had in sports when he was young, he excelled on his way to becoming a chartered accountant, winning the gold medal in his class in Manitoba and the silver medal in Canada. Of course, these were accomplishments he never boasted about. He never told Barbara that there was a plaque at the Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba for his gold medal. She had to discover it by accident one day, there for a different reason. He moved to Montreal, lived there for years, working as an accountant, later chased an MBA at Western in London, and after a short stint living in Toronto, moved back to Winnipeg. It was the late 80s. Around this time, he answered an ad in the newspaper from a woman who was looking for a coffee date. She had listed certain qualities that she prized and had written that she was, quote, looking for a real mensch. David had no idea what this was, but still he answered the ad. He caught Barbara's attention with his response, first with his handwriting. As well, because he was a gentleman, he included his home and work phone numbers, his address, his last name, and because, unlike many of the other responses she received, his was not written on hotel stationery. Even though he didn't know what a mensch was, they met for coffee, and the rest was history. They were married in 1997 and have just marked 31 years together. A great match, a wonderful blend, complementing each other. David always there to offer perspective and share wisdom to help Barbara with anything that might be on her mind. Listening, an open book, who could listen any time that Barbara and on anything she wanted to discuss. But more than all of that, he always made her life and the life of everyone around him fun. He was at ease talking to anyone, made friends easily and with seemingly everyone. He always seemed to become best buddies with every server, every security guard, every cleaner, always stopping them to take pictures wherever he was, inviting them into his life by learning about theirs. Because his trick was an all too rare combination of modesty and genuine interest in others. The thing about David was, he never really wanted or cared about being known, but he wanted to know everything about you. He was fascinated, interested. He'd ask questions, smile widely, and listen. And along the way, he'd make jokes and show you his wild sense of humor. In many ways, he never gave up his inner child, even though it had been taken from him. His outer child, at least. The fun gene inside, however, that so many people lose or see shrink over time, it burned brightly within David till the very end. He could delight, wide-eyed in excitement, at Boston Red Sox spring training in Fort Myers, Florida, when he saw Red Sox slugger David Ortiz called out, "Hey, Big Papi," and had Ortiz turn and acknowledge him. The thrill of a lifetime. Or he could find incredible enjoyment in performing the national anthem at a Blue Bomber game on the field with his pals from the barbershop chorus, and then watch the players run past them as they took their positions to start the game. David will be remembered for excellence as well at his work, where he was truly devoted. He loved the different phases accounting took throughout his life. Working in a firm, teaching in the CGA program, working in the Auditor General's office, from where he retired in 2007. But he always kept his work at work. At home, both before and after retirement, it was time spent with Barbara. They would travel. There were cruises around the Caribbean where it wouldn't take long for everyone on the boat to know David and to love him. There were trips to California and the West Coast to see family, and other memorable visits to Italy, to Mexico, to New Orleans, to name a few. It was never really his main priority. He went because Barbara wanted to go, but when he was traveling and meeting new people, David loved it. He found other ways in his retired life to keep his mind occupied. He had a great group of retired financial types who got together regularly, even continued on Zoom. There was the barbershop chorus, aqua-size classes. The common denominator in everything was the people. David loved the people, meeting them, befriending them, and hearing their stories. He fed and thrived off the camaraderie. Many of them knew him as a listener, a man who wore a hat to everything. Another story that stood out when Barbara and I were speaking yesterday was many years ago, in the first incarnation of the Winnipeg Jets, when they made the playoffs and the whiteout became a thing for the first time. Barbara's son David really wanted to go to a game, so David took him. He did not wear white. He came from the office and wore the suit that he wore to work. But he made David's day by taking him, a young Jets fan, to such an exciting game. He knew how much it meant to him. In Jewish tradition, to do something like this we often call a mitzvah, to do something selfless, something for someone else without any hope of any reward. That's the funny thing about the ad that David answered, that Barbara put in the paper all those years ago, is that he may not have known what a mensch was, but he actually did, because he was. That was how he lived his life. And that's why she found him, because she was looking for a real mensch. A good man, a selfless man, someone who would work hard, never complain, always overcome the next obstacle. In the Talmud, which is a piece of Jewish wisdom, a commentary on the Torah, on the Bible, there is a line, "Monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials." People like David Petrie will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown and for the love they have given, for being a shining example of what it means to be a mensch. In David's honor, I will now recite in English the traditional Jewish memorial prayer, what we call the El Malei Rachamim prayer. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of David Petrie, son of George and Ida, who is gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. In a moment we will conclude our service, first with the recitation of another prayer known in Jewish tradition as the Mourners Kaddish, or the Kaddish prayer. It is said in honor of our loved one who has passed, but it is for the mourners, something that helps them get through the difficult times in their life, especially right now. We also then move on to the burial. In Jewish tradition, we believe there is no higher form of respect than to accompany a loved one to his final resting place and to bury him with our own hands, kind, knowing, sorrowful hands, hands that once held their hands. The family will lead us, and then people will have the opportunity. Everyone is invited to participate. This is another example of a mitzvah, a selfless act we do for someone without any hope of any reward. Practically speaking, there are a number of shovels, and people can come up in line and up at both sides. The Jewish style varies from community to community. Most people will pour 3 shovelfuls of earth, but some people will use the front of the shovel, some people will use the back of the shovel. Some people will pass the shovel to the next person, some people will return it to the earth as if reluctant to pass on a burden. Whatever the custom with which you are familiar or which resonates with you as I've explained it is the custom you should embrace. The key is to participate together as a community. For someone who really cared so much about community and other people. In keeping with another Jewish custom, which is Shiva, visiting those in mourning, Barbara will be receiving visitors at her home, which is in Linden Woods, 260 Fairhaven Road, Unit 405. Visitors are welcome Wednesday and Thursday, both days in the afternoon from 2 to 4 and in the evening from 7 to 9. Before we recite the Kaddish and then conclude with our burial, I'd like to offer one more prayer. Eternal God, Master of Mercy, give us the gift of remembering. May our memories of our loved one be tender and true, undiminished by time. Let us recall him and love him as he was. Shelter us with the gift of tears. Let us express our sense of loss, our sorrow, our pain, as well as our love, and even words unspoken. Bless us with the gift of prayer, that we may face you with an open heart, with trusting faith, unembarrassed and unashamed. Strengthen us with the gift of hope, that we may always believe in the beauty of life, the power of goodness, and the right to joy. We surrender our being and the soul of our loved one to your all-knowing compassion. Job once said, God you have given, God you have taken away, blessed be the name of God. May the memory of David Petrie be a blessing, as we mark that his essence will never leave our hearts and our souls. We will now recite the Mourners Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabah mevorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity. And again, let us say, Amen. Thank you again to everyone for being here, and to everyone who has tuned in to the service online. We encourage you to continue reaching out to David's loved ones through emails, phone calls, text messages, to help them at this time of need. And especially to our pallbearers, thank you for the mitzvah you have performed today, for being here and helping us with our service. To everyone who is able to participate. I'll now invite Barbara to come forward, the rest of the family, to lead us in the closing ritual, the burial. Thank you again, everyone.
said.